Today I'm going to show you how to paint an urban camouflage on a miniature. It's coming right up. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. And if you're new to the channel and you want to learn about Necrons and more, then please subscribe and hit the bell button to turn on all notifications so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so in today's painting tutorial I'm going to show you how to paint urban camouflage on a Warhammer 40k miniature, in particular on his cloak. This is a very easy way to do it, so I really hope you find the tutorial useful. Okay, so here is the miniature that I'm going to use to do this urban camouflage. So as you can see, I've already base coated everything except for the cloak. So I have primed this miniature in black, and that was because I'm doing a dark blue paint scheme. You could prime it in white or indeed grey, depending on your own personal preference. Either way, the starting point to do this urban camouflage is to end up with a cloak which is going to be a mid-tone grey. I want to get my cloak up to this grey here, which is Dawnstone Grey. However, first of all, I'm going to build up the grey with Ishan Grey. Actually, there's two reasons for that. I'm going to have the inside of my cloak Ishan Grey. There's going to be no camouflage on the inside. The camouflage is going to be on the outside. So I think it might be quite good to have that darker grey on the inside and then the camo on the outside. So let's get painting. So we're going to start off by giving our paint a good shake, and then we're going to put some onto our wet palette. So just get a little blob out of the lid. Come on. Oh, there we go. Alright, now we need to add some water to that paint. So just a little drop of water just to thin down the paint. We're probably going to have to do 2 or 3 coats. Now in terms of brushes, I'm going to use the Games Workshop base coat for the main areas, and then I've got a size 2 brush just to do the little fiddly bits, i.e. cutting in, because it's a bit more pointed. So I'm just going to basically go over the whole of the cloak here with this Ishan Grey, and I'm going to paint the whole of this cloak. Now, like I said, you're looking to do several thin layers. It's much better than doing one big thick coat. So I'm just going to continue to do this, and then we will be back for the next stage. Okay, so that's that grey done on both sides. So next we're going to go over with Dawnstone Grey, which I've already put on my wet palette. So we are ready to go, and again this will take at least 2, maybe 3 coats because we've mixed the paint nice and thin. So I'm just going to go over the grey that we've put down. We want to build up a nice thin coat of paint, but a nice solid colour. Okay, so that is that layer down. Now one thing to note when you're painting grey is when you first put it on it seems really bright, but as it dries it does dry darker. So that's the contrast between the front and back. Right, next up we're going to wash this cloak. We're only going to wash it in the recesses. We're going to wash it with a grey-green colour. Now I don't have a grey-green wash, so I've made one up myself. I've just got it in my little palette here. So first of all I used this colour, which is Castilian Green, which is quite a nice dark, almost greyish type green. So I used that first, and then I mixed in some Dawnstone Grey, probably about 50-50 of each of those colours. Then I added some Laha Medium to the mix to give me a nice wash consistency, which I've got just here. So now we are going to just put this in the recesses of this cloak. So just very carefully just paint it in the recesses like so. This would just give the cloak a bit of depth, because when we do the actual camouflage itself we are not going to be doing any highlights. To just go over the whole cloak in all of the recesses with this wash, let it dry, and then we'll be back. Okay, so that's dried and we have some shading in the recesses. Now we're ready to paint the camo. So what I've done is I've put some white paint in my palette here and I've watered it down slightly, not too much. We don't want it too watery and thin. We still may have to use 2 coats, but we'll see how it goes because we are painting over a light grey colour, so it shouldn't be too bad. Right, what we're going to do is we are going to do some random squiggles effectively on here. So we're not looking for any straight lines, we want to have some squiggly shapes and we want them all spaced out. So let's get some down. Right, so any little squiggle that we can do. Now we can have these of different thicknesses, so you could have maybe some quite thick and then you could have some quite thin, but either way a nice random shape. It's quite difficult to do on camera, to be honest, so I'm not in my usual painting position, but any sort of random shape, and you just space them out like so. So I'm going to continue to do that and I'll be back. Okay, so that's done. As you can see, it went all over the cloak there, just doing this random pattern, leaving a gap in between the different white sections. We're now going to do a very similar thing but with a grey-green colour. So I'm going to use the colour that I used for my wash, but I'm not going to make it into a wash consistency, I'm going to make it into a paint consistency. Now the idea is we want to do a similar squiggly line to this, and we're going to go from one white patch to another white patch with this particular colour. We're not going to join more than one white patch to another one, so we're not going to go, say, in between these 3 patches. We're going to go from one patch to the other patch in a random fashion. So let's get doing that. So I've got my paint mixed up and we're going to literally go from one section to the other with this colour. Now it doesn't matter if you go over the white, you can actually do that, that's not a problem. We want quite a random finish to this, of course. So one white patch to another white patch like so, and just do that all over the cloak. Okay, so that is that layer done and it's really starting to take shape now. So next we're going to go in with Ishan Grey, which is the dark grey that we used just here, and we're going to effectively paint in the areas we haven't painted yet, leaving some of the base coat down but also adding some extra paint in between the gaps between, again, the white section. So we'll have the original base coat, we'll have the white, we'll have the green grey which we've just done, and then we'll have this new dark grey. So I've got some here on my palette. So again, find the areas you haven't painted yet and then do a little squiggly splodge. Now obviously this is all very random, doesn't have to be that accurate. Just match up the white sections and the green sections, leaving some of the original base coat, and do this all over the cloak. Okay, so that is that colour all done. Now depending on how you want your urban camo to look, that could potentially be finished for you. It's a nice camo design and it's pretty bright. However, you may want to dull it down a bit, and to do that what we're going to use is this. This is a Vallejo wash. It's the Pow Grey. Now potentially you could use another wash, just a grey wash, but I find this is really good, especially if you're washing white. It should make the white look a little bit dirty effectively. So we're going to shake this up, and I'm going to put some on my little palette, and then we're going to cover the whole of the cloak with this wash. So let's get some on our brush, and here we go. So I'm literally just going to wash this all over the camo and then I will let it dry. Okay, so that is that layer all dried, and now we have a dirtier looking urban camouflaged cloak. I've just blue tacked him to the legs. I've still got to paint this model, of course, but that is how he's looking. And if you enjoyed this video, I'll link you up to some other painting tutorials that I've made, so you can check them out next. Beam me up!